How's it going, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, shapes, and forms? Welcome to a special episode of Animu Wut Do. As always, I'm Greg, and I'm joined here today by Mei. Say hello.
Hello.
So, a couple things. First off, you're probably wondering, wait, what the fuck? Why is Animu Wut Do coming out on a Monday? Well, because this story kind of happened last week, and for reasons why you'll kind of see what we're about to talk about, this story hit on Thursday, and then a bigger development hit yesterday. We're recording this as of Sunday, the 28th of August. And kind of with how the situation, what we're about to talk about today, it makes more sense to release this on Monday instead of waiting till Thursday, because by then, I hate to say it, but by then the story won't be as relevant, and that's kind of sad, but that's the nature of the beast, and that's the nature of the internet and stories like that. But there's a big thing that just hit, and it's kind of there's a lot to it, and this episode before yesterday was going to be a very different episode because there was not this development that happened yesterday. But you're also going to be wondering, why are we talking about a video game series and why are we not talking about an anime this week? There is a technicality. This game series did have an anime that came out, and it is kind of talked about at length at one point. Not at length, but it is talked about at one point, some of the effort that went through. But at the same time, this is still a Japanese-based fighting game, so I feel it's very anime. You know, you could already see BlazBlue, and I'm sure you already read the title and stuff like that. But it's like, BlazBlue is very much, you know, if you watch anime, you've probably played BlazBlue at some point. You know, that's just a safe assumption. You know, you've probably played it, or at least at bare minimum heard of it. It's a cool series of games, but there's some controversy that hit at the end of last week, and I feel like because Mei and I are the aspiring voice actors, I mean Mira is as well, but Mei and I have had conversations like this for quite a while. I would say ever since we were first friends, like 5 years ago, that we even were talking about the whole dub culture and what goes into a dub and sub versus dub and shit like that in the first place. So, and also at the end of the day, this is just two people's opinions. We're going to be talking about some pretty controversial stuff, and we've kind of told ourselves we would never fully talk about sub versus dub. But this is the closest I think we're ever going to be getting to sub versus dub, because this involves a dub or a lack therefore of a dub, and the way that a company handled it. This is an opinion piece. This is also a discussion piece. Like I said, this is also just two people's opinions. And we would love to hear civil discussion. Because I know talking about subs versus dubs at times, most of the time, can become just a heated shouting match. And I don't want it to be a heated shouting match because TLDR, before the episode starts, we're allowed to enjoy a series or something of this nature the way that we want to be able to enjoy it, and at the end of the day we're all enjoying the same product, just in the way that we prefer to listen to the audio and enjoy it. But that being said, let's dive right on into the meat of this before getting to the discussion. So last Thursday, Mei, I was at work, and you texted me about it at first, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I want to say you had texted me about it first, and you said, well, Patrick Seitz just said that the new BlazBlue is not going to get dubbed. I'm not going to get the game now. Or something along those lines. I don't want to misquote your thing. You're texting me. Just something like, well, now it was either like, I'm not going to get it, or, well, I completely lost interest in it, or something like that. And I'm like, well, that's kind of dumb. Why are they not, okay, they've dubbed every single BlazBlue thing. It's like, why aren't they doing this one? So I went and I read Patrick Seitz's statement, and this is from August 25th. So this was Thursday. So Patrick Seitz posted this very long post. I'm going to read it in full because it kind of explains everything. So Patrick Seitz said on his Facebook page, Aksys Games put out a few tweets yesterday that confirmed what I'd been dreading for more with each passing month of silence. That BlazBlue Central Fiction would not be receiving English dub and would go to market in the US sub only. And he goes to quote the two tweets. at Aksys Games said, basically boiled down to game now with no dub. Game 6 to 8 months late with dub. We made a tough decision, but stick by it. And then the follow-up tweet. For clarification, we'll be doing one release this November, not multiple for BlazBlue or BBCF, which is BlazBlue Central Fiction. No dub. No plans for dub and release or no plans for a dub release or DLC at the moment. Then Patrick comes back in and says, "I'm disappointed by the news. I'm especially disappointed to be getting it via tweet. Reaching out to the cast would have been a simpler enough courtesy for Aksys to extend. Maybe they think we don't. Maybe they think we don't much care either way, but many of us do. I know I do. I've been Ragna from Calamity Trigger onwards. I served as script adapter and VO director on Continuum Shift Extend. When BlazBlue Ultra Memory got licensed for a US release, I coordinated with Funimation to adapt and direct it out of Los Angeles so we can retain practically the entire cast and give longtime fans of the series a dub with the voices they've known all along. Granted, my experience with BlazBlue might be a bit more behind the scenes than most, but at the end of the day, I am a fan too. Optimists are making a lot out of that at the moment distinction in Aksys' second tweet, hanging their hopes on a dubbed release or at least an English dialogue DLC down the line. Sadly, I am not. Aksys has literally nothing to gain from saying, nope, it's never going to happen, except inviting a lot of disappointment and ill will upon themselves in a moment where some folks are ready to in a moment where some folks are already fairly salty, even if they know it will ultimately be the truth. No plan for a dub release or DLC at the moment is an easy letdown wherein everyone loses hope and their own staggered gradual pace, or ideally just forget about it with the passage of time. If a sub-only BlazBlue Central Fiction sells well in America, it'll be seen as proof that an English dub isn't essential. That is an expensive. I suck at words. That it's an expensive fippery or frippery. Never heard of that word. I need to expand my vocabulary. It is an expensive frippery, as it were, and and that they were right to release it a pared down version. At that point, why commit funds to a dub after the fact when they already got the cash in hand? And if BlazBlue Central Fiction doesn't sell well, no one's going to want to throw good money after bad by dubbing something that's underperformed in an initial US release. All this said, I'm not working with any privileged information here. If Aksys approached us to dub Central Fiction later on, I will happily eat crow and do it publicly. And we cleared the discussion when we're cleared to discuss the dub. But as of right now, faced with the reality I never thought to consider that after release of a multitude of dual-language BlazBlue titles from 2008 onwards, they are just nixing the English voices altogether. They're not giving me much of a reason to hold my breath. Some fans just play BlazBlue to whoop ass, and that's fine. But there's a lot of folks, for a lot of folks, the story mode, which has just grown richer with each iteration, is a major draw. The mythos and the relationship between the characters have been fleshed out in loving detail, and many among you would rather hear those thousands of lines being acted out in English than have to read them. And what a cast we've had. I think our BlazBlue English cast is one of the best fighting game ensembles in the genre, frankly. I'm not saying that as a self-aggrandizing actor, but one who's bummed over a loss of a or one who is bummed over the loss of a paycheck. I'm saying that as someone who, like you, has spent the last 8 years with these characters, cheering for their victories, mourning their losses, and understanding the world of BlazBlue more, or sometimes less, with each new revelation. TLDR version, BlazBlue Central Fiction isn't getting dubbed. I am sad about it, irate about how impersonal I found out, and not putting any particular stock in a dub happening after the fact, though I would love to be wrong on that front. After all this time, it hurts to be told that we were not so central to the fiction after all. His post was riddled with a shitload of comments, a shitload of people sharing it, people tweeting to Aksys, comments being made by even people like David Vincent, who he shared a couple tweets. One of them was somebody saying that the game's just not going to be the same without hearing the whole cast in English. And people went up in arms about it. And up until yesterday, this was what we were going to be discussing, was the lack of a dub. But yesterday, there is an update to the story, and Patrick Seitz personally commented on the previous post saying that he then said, "Thank you all so much for your positive comments. Please check out my new post just uploaded for updates." And it had a happy face. So I said, "Oh, what's going on here?" So Patrick Seitz posted yesterday afternoon. First off, let me say thank you for all the comments in support of the English BlazBlue you've posted on social media in the wake of my post from Thursday. Not only are they a real shot in the arm personally, but they reinforce what I've always known, that the BlazBlue community is a robust one, filled with engaged fans who are zealous and passionate about their fandom of choice. That said, I wasn't expecting this story to catch fire the way it had, and I had a hunch that Aksys Games wasn't either. They released the following comment yesterday over a series of tweets. "We know that no dub for launch is frustrating. We hear you guys loud and clear. It's not something we were happy to announce. An English dub is possible, but some devs need extra convincing. Petitions, fan page, etc. all help. Fan communities like you guys are instrumental to making a series like BlazBlue and Guilty Gear possible here in the States. They've offered no guarantee." This is Patrick Seitz back. He's done quoting the what Aksys was saying. So Patrick goes back to saying, "They've offered no guarantees, but we've nothing to lose by rolling up our collective sleeves and giving it a try. Already, I think the outcry has improved our chances of an English dub from where they were even just 48 hours ago. So let's see what kind of noise we can make." And he goes into sharing. There's a change.org petition. So he said, "Sign and share the change.org petition." There's the URL for right there. "Upload videos to YouTube," which we're doing. "Create and post original artwork or memes." I love that little or memes bit. "If you have a mind, speak your mind via whatever medium you choose, and then link it where Aksys Games and Arc System Works will see it. Official Twitter, Facebook forums, etc. Let them know how much you want an English dub for Central Fiction. Passion and civility aren't mutually exclusive. Be respectful, but be seen and heard. As for any questions or whether or not to buy a sub-only release of Central Fiction in the meantime, there's no good one-size-fits-all answer to that, frankly. I don't know what's going to help the dubs cause more. Healthy sub-only sales to the point where dubbing it after the fact doesn't feel like a financial risk, or low sub-only sales that underscore dissatisfaction with the current pared down release. In this as in all things, you have to do what feels right to you. All right, guys, let's do our best. Let's do our best to give dubbed BlazBlue and the I'm fucking up words. I am so sorry. Let's do our best to give dubbed BlazBlue the Astro finish it deserves," with a happy face at the end. So some of the comments, and if you go to the change.com position, there's a whole thing that they're talking about. Some of the comments that were being said around the time that when Patrick Seitz was posting his thing, and even some people on Twitter and stuff like that. So on the main change.com Twitter, it said, "Earlier this week, Aksys Games announced that there was no plans for a dub and forthcoming mainline game in the BlazBlue franchise, or the end of the Ragnar story, Central Fiction. They claimed it was either that or delay the game another 6 to 8 months. This probably wasn't the reaction they expected. Yes, I would wait 6 to 8 months for a dub. Personally, I would not mind it, I would not mind, especially if you look at the autographs I've collected on the covers of my copies of the other BlazBlue games. Can we please consider it for DLC? I will seriously pay for English dub if that's what it takes." Another response is, I would wait half a year for an English voice track for BlazBlue. I was okay with Guilty Gear not having one, as it has mostly not before. The wording on this tweet's weird. I was okay with Guilty Gear not having one, as it was mostly not before, but BlazBlue always had 2 vocal sets in its localization. Another response said, I definitely would. I'm honestly I'm pre-ordering the limited edition, and I get it. I'm just going to shelve it, and when I get it, I'm just going to shelve it and wait for the English dub. Please, it's one of my favorite parts of this beautiful franchise. I want an English dub. I would pay $20 for it even. Another response said, I'd pay for an English dub DLC, so please consider it, Aksys. Same goes for Guilty Gear. Is it Revelator? Is that the name of the new Guilty Gear?
I don't know.
I think that's how I read it. And then the last comment that they cite on the petition is, yes, I actually would rather have waited. So basically, then it goes into Patrick Seitz's comments and stuff like that. And then this change.org petition said, they are central to this fiction. Let's prove it. Support the dub of BlazBlue Central Fiction. And let's see Ragna's story end with the bang that the voice talent deserves. So that leads into our discussion today. And there's been some other things. So I mentioned David Vincent earlier, and he had he had made mention of the fact that he was basically, what he's been doing is just retweeting certain things. So he retweeted the petition. He's retweeted people showing dissatisfaction of there not being a dub of BlazBlue. And then we have Christina V's tweet. I had an amazing time as Noelle. Began voicing her as a teen and she saw me through almost my 20s. Please support the new game regardless. So there's a couple discussions that we're going to have here. And I'm just going to kind of ask for your general opinion before kind of going into like the case for why this game should have a dub. So it's like, what has been your reaction throughout for you, Mei? Because you were the one that shared this story with me. And I know that if there was a prior podcast where, and I'm gonna end up bringing up Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem, but there was a podcast where you talked about that you lost all interest in Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem because it wasn't going to be dubbed. And I think it goes to show that there are actually, and I'm surprised that this is the reaction it got. I'll tell you that, because I figured, and I'll get into it when I talk about what I have to say about it, that I figured the majority of it be all who fucking cares, just give me the game. But this is a weird thing. I've never heard a controversy like this happening. So what are kind of your general thoughts throughout this whole thing?
Well, like, I can understand that some game companies, they don't want to dub. I just don't like the fact that after I was reading it that they didn't have the courtesy to tell the voice actors, because I know usually most companies, if they're gonna like dub a game and they don't get the person, I think they usually tell them, or at least tell their agents to tell
there's some sort of courtesy, and this is also speculation too, because yes, we're aspiring voice actors, but we haven't done anything professional in this sense yet, so we can't really say one way or another. But if we understand it correctly, if I'm getting from what Patrick is saying, there usually has been some sort of courtesy if they're not going to dub something in like the past, not like in general. I don't know. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
But I mean, I don't know how that kind of works, because I know there was a whole thing back. I don't know. I'm sure you remember that whole thing where when they were gonna dub Metal Gear Solid 5, they weren't gonna get David Hayter. Yeah. They got Kiefer
Sutherland. Yeah, I remember. That was another one.
And I mean, I know David Hayter found out, and he expressed his disappointment on Twitter, which is fine, because when you're a role for so many years, and then all of a sudden they change you, it's really disappointing. I mean, you find out later on why they changed his voice actor the game explains why, which I thought was pretty interesting, but I mean, my time with Metal Gear Solid ended after 4, but that's just me.
Well, the whole thing, the real quick, the whole Metal Gear Solid thing, I really strongly think that Kojima, spoilers real quick for Metal Gear Solid, that you're not playing as Big Boss in Metal Gear Solid 5, so it makes sense why, in hindsight, he was changing the voice actor. So it's like, okay, that kind of makes sense, but then they fucked up by casting Kiefer Sutherland as real Big Boss. It's all, no, that's probably not what Kojima. But then like that also goes into the whole Konami Kojima fiasco, and I'm sure that there's this whole third act that Kojima was working on and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not uncommon where controversies of like long-lasting voice talent getting replaced has happened, and there's been uproar about it.
Yeah, so I mean, I understand that, but usually that's what I hear is like, well, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how the voice actors, how they get communicated if they're not going to be a role
Well,
anymore or
if
something.
I remember back during the David Hayter debacle a few years ago, I think he in direct contact with either Kojima or Konami, and they kind of said, "Yeah, no, we're not going to be using you." If I remember,
I don't
there
know.
was it was somebody associated with the series that said, "Yeah, we're not going to be calling you in." So I was like, there was at least some sort of communication. It wasn't like all of a sudden they announced the big boss of Metal Gear Solid 5 is going to be Kiefer Sutherland, and then David Hayter's all, well, wait, what the fuck? Why wasn't I told anything?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
But yeah, it just when I heard that it wasn't any dubbed, I mean, like I said, I understand companies doing certain things. They don't dub certain games. I totally get that because there's some games that I own that aren't dubbed.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I get disappointed by it, but I understand that. I just don't think it was cool of them to just say on Twitter, "Hey, we're not going to dub it." And then, Patrick and everyone else had to find out through Twitter because I mean, I'm pretty sure if they hadn't said anything, they would have been sitting and wondering, like, am I gonna be called back for this character? Like, because I know Patrick has been Ragna since like the beginning.
Yeah.
That's like one role he's done for like ever. And so yeah, so I don't think it was cool that they didn't tell them that they just went through Twitter and it's just like, hey,
No, it's super shitty. It really is. And it's like, this is my conflict. Like, this is where I'm conflicted. I understand Christina V's point of view because it seems like she's from rereading her tweet. It seems like she's trying to take the optimistic high road because she could be thinking, well, if the game sells well, maybe they'll at least consider this dub after the fact since people are already making noise about it. But then I also understand Patrick of saying, look, I can't tell you what you can and can't support. Because there's the thing at the end of his second post. Where is it at right there? As for the question of whether or not to buy the sub-only release of Central Fiction, in the meantime, there's no good one-size-fits-all answer to that. Frankly, I don't know what's going to help the dub cause more. Healthy sub-only sales, where the dubbing after the fact doesn't really look like a financial risk, or low sub-only sales that underscore dissatisfaction with the current pared-down version. In this, like in all things, you have to do what feels right to you. And I get it's a catch-22. It's all you don't support it and you risk that the lack of support's going to shoot you in the fucking foot, or you do support it with false hope of maybe this will help it with a dub and it's not going to get dubbed. Or it happens the other way. The lack of sales show well, fuck, we kind of really fucked up. And the showing of sub only shows that like we're still going to support your product. We're not going to play it, or we're going to be very upset at you, but we're still going to pay your. It's like it's such a catch-22, and the reason and the case for why this game should be dubbed is because people like me won't buy this game if it's not dubbed, and that's my conflict because I know how things are. I know that especially in like the dubbing industry, you're kind of on a little fucking thread, and it's like you're lucky if you get to keep a role for a certain amount of years. Unless it's something like, say, for example, the Black Butler cast is so iconic that of course they're gonna keep the Black Butler cast. When they redid Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, it's all aside from like not being able to cast Aaron Dismuke because he's not a little kid anymore, and I think they recasted Damian Clark as Scar, but that was about it. Like the rest of everyone else sounded more or less the same, It's all they still maintained that, that role, and I get it that sometimes you're on a thread, but where's the fucking courtesy? It's like, where was the courtesy on Aksys' side to pull, even if they just pulled Patrick aside and said, look, you're the one that's been the most involved in this, so we're going to have you break the news to the cast that we're not going to be dubbing the new game. It's like where's the courtesy? It's very fucking shitty that, you already said it. It's really shitty that Patrick had to find out via a tweet that he's not going to be able to dub a character he's had for 8 years now. It's like, well, why didn't you just tell him beforehand? It's such a hard thing to talk about. And my bigger thing, especially now that I've got this understanding, this is the final fucking game. Why not just get the old band together for one last game? Go out on a high note with both the Japanese and the English. And it's and it plays into and the bigger reason why I think that they should dub it is because if they don't dub it, they're taking away a method. They're taking away one of the key ways that people enjoy this game, and that is in English. And I know that this is going to cause a sub versus dub debate, but some people enjoy listening to it in Japanese with the subtitles, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just fine. You're allowed to enjoy things the way that you want to. But if you take away an English dub, you're telling people how they're supposed. Like, it's kind of a subtle message of, well, we're cheaping out here, so you kind of have to enjoy it subbed now. And that is shitty, especially with the long fucking, like, the stories in BlazBlue games are fucking enormous and immense as shit. I remember, like, it was when we saw Patrick Seitz at UCR. Wasn't he telling the story of when he first saw the BlazBlue script? He gets this fucking giant-ass novel, and he's all, oh, shit, this is the script?
Yeah, because, I don't know, like, I'm sure it's obvious to most people, but fighting games normally don't have a story. Like, Tekken, for example, I'm just saying Tekken, because that's the one I like. No. It doesn't, I mean, it has a story, it's not that massive, though. Like, it's just,
The story is not voice acted over, like, 500-page scripts per character.
Yeah,
it's like,
BlazBlue...
No, I'd say.
BlazBlue is like a visual novel fighting game. Like, that's how I see it as. I mean, because Arc System Works, the people who make BlazBlue, they tend to do like visual novel stuff with their works. Like, there's other stuff they've done. Like, there's actually is a visual novel that's the prequel to BlazBlue, and that's how they tell their story. It's a fighting game, yeah, but they have a huge story to tell.
Isn't Aksys and Arc? Well, I don't know if it's Arc System Works, but Aksys puts out the Virtues trilogy, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, but Arc System Works is the company in Japan that makes it.
Oh yeah, so. I'm just saying from a standpoint of publishing, that they're the ones that Aksys is the series, the company that's been publishing the Virtue games.
Yeah.
The reason why I bring it up is because the Virtue series 999. Virtuous Escape, or Virtue's Last Reward, or Last... God, what's the name of the second game? Virtue's Last Reward.
Virtue's Last Reward, and then there's Zero Time Dilemma.
Yeah, it's Zero Time Dilemma. It's like, though they're practically visual novels. They're like puzzle visual novels.
Well, because for that one, that's made by Spike Chunsoft, who also made Danganronpa, so...
Right.
So, yeah, but
it's like, they're I don't know, it's like, there still is this kind of, trend in games that come out through Aksys, that there's a visual novel component to most of their games that they put out. At least the well-known ones. It's like, I think Aksys games, and I think the story is in visual novel style. That there's a lot of dialogue, that there's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of acting. And it's like, it's not like if they decided to not dub Tekken, it's like that there's not going to be this controversy, because all you're going to be missing is just the English versions of some characters doing fighting sounds.
I mean, to be honest, because I started with with Tekken Tag Tournament 2, or 2, first one, and then I played Tekken 4 with you. I was actually shocked. I thought it was dubbed because I'm used to fighting games being dubbed. So, I mean, it wasn't a big deal to me. I still buy and support the series, but that's because it's never been dubbed. The only reason they dubbed like 4 is because I think they wanted to see what would happen,
No.
but I don't think it did very well. Because, I mean, it's
They
like,
kept the international feel to it after that because everyone speaks in different languages.
yeah, I just find it funny that in Tekken, everyone can speak a different language and somehow everybody can
Everyone
understand
understands one another.
each
Yeah,
other.
that's
They know
what
what they're saying, so.
But yeah, it's like the thing that's different about BlazBlue is that the story is so immense and there's so much acting that goes into it. It's like you could get lost for hours just playing one person's various storylines. It's like there's a lot to those fucking games, and so I'm trying to find where my point was, going back to what we were talking about before we went on the Tekken thing, and the visual novel aspect. Oh, okay, that's what I'm saying. Sub versus dub. So because of that, there were people who enjoy the original language and say this is how it's supposed to be enjoyed. It's all okay. Yeah, you're allowed to believe that. And I have a respect for the sub, but I love hearing things in their, like, if I can, I like hearing it in English because it's my natural language. I grew up listening to dubs. As an aspiring voice actor, I have mad respect for anyone associated with the localization and dubbing of anything. And I also will argue to the day that I fucking die that the quality of anime dubs and Japanese video game dubs has gotten so much better than it has in the past. People have learned what works, what doesn't work. People have learned how you can properly direct a dub and how you can properly adapt a dub and how you can have a good middle ground of keeping the source material but at the same time having it make sense in English. And even when people argue, it's like, well, that wasn't a direct translation. It's like, yeah, sometimes direct translations just don't fucking work. And it's like, the English dub is surprisingly, there's quite a few people that enjoy it in English. I'm still going to say that it's in the minority because there's still the massive amount of people saying, oh, you have to enjoy it in the original Japanese, which, again, as I'm saying, you're allowed to do that. You please enjoy things the way that you can enjoy it. But where it becomes a problem is if you take away one of those things. There are certain games out there that only have an English version, and the people who want to hear it in Japanese can't hear it in Japanese. That's not so much the case now, but more of something that happened in the past. But now you've got it seems to be kind of a standard for the past at least 10 plus years that you have dual audio. For the people who want it in English, you can enjoy it in English. For the people who want it in Japanese with English subtitles, you can have Japanese and English subtitles. And taking away one of those things takes away, it's going to let somebody down, and it's going to upset people, because we enjoy things different ways, And me personally, I prefer dubs over subs any day because I like being able to pay attention to everything. I like being able to take in the scenery, take in what's visually going on. And even though I watch subbed anime to this day, I'm watching 91 Days right now. 91 Days is fucking fantastic, and there's no English dub for it yet. I hope there is in the future, but I'm watching it in subbed. I watched Gangsta subbed. I watched Death Parade subbed. I watched it subbed, but the thing that, and it's a personal thing with me, I don't fault how subs are. It's just, for me, it's a lot of effort, and I feel like I miss stuff. So I like being able to hear it in English because I can listen to it, understand it in English. I can support the voice actors who are a part of it, and also learn about new English voice actors who maybe are people that I've never heard of before. And I'm able to enjoy it both visually and audibly. Like, I'm able to enjoy the audio and enjoy the visuals, like 100%, and not feel like that I missed anything. But at the same time, that's just me. And I get that I am in a minority here. And people who can watch things in English sub and are able to not miss anything, I'm thankful. I'm so glad you guys are able to do that. And I'm glad that that's the way that people can enjoy things, because we're allowed to enjoy things the way that we can. But not doing a dub is that was my computer. Thank you, computer, for making noise when I told you not to. So no, it's like, My big problem, which is why I'm not going to buy the game if it's not dubbed, is it's one thing to just make the decision, look, we're not going to dub it. It's another thing to kind of shaft your English cast and make them find out via Twitter. And that's what I can't support is, look, it's one thing to say, look, we just want to do it English subbed and maybe pull the actors aside and say, hey, we've been working with you for the past 8 years. We're not going to dub this final game. And let that disappointment be personal. But it's another thing when a voice actor has to publicly come out and kind of call Aksys out on its shit and say, look, I know that I've been doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but I've been just as invested in this series for a very long time, and I've been a fan and also someone who's gotten to work on it, and I'm very mad with how this came out. And that's why if they don't dub it, I'm not going to support it. And I know people are going to call me petty. I know people are going to call me shallow for it. And I know people are going to say, well, just enjoy it in English sub. But I'm sorry, if you're going to take away the way that I want to enjoy this game, then doing it in a way that doesn't respect the English cast, or at least give some sort of courtesy to the people that you've been working with for the past 8 years, why should I support you? And I know that's a controversial opinion, and I know people are going to say that's a stupid opinion, but it's my thought, you know? I'm with these other people. I would wait 6 to 8 months for a dub of this game. I would wait 1.5 years for this game to get dubbed. I would wait as long as it needed to. As far as paying for it for DLC, that's a different conversation for a different day, but at least the option is still there. You know, maybe at the end they release an extend version that would have all the voice packs in it. I mean, I know they've done that in the past. I don't know. It bums me out, and I hope that even if it's not right away, that they do eventually come to their senses and say, look, this is the last game. We kind of fucked up in the way that we announced we're not doing a dub. Let's just take the chance and do it. Because I really do think there's a lot of people who are, you know, and I am readily surprised at how many people have come out and said, yeah, I would have waited, and yes, I would want an English dub, and no, I'm not going to support this if there's an English dub. I figured we would be one of the very few, but there's a whole hell of a lot of people here, and we're all disappointed. We've all grown to love these characters in English, you know, and, you know, it would be just like if if Aksys decided that only the Japanese version was going to be in Japanese and only the US version was going to be in English, because then the people who love it in Japanese would be pissed, saying, well, where the fuck is our Japanese dual audio? You know, and that wouldn't be fair to them. So I personally don't think it's fair to us English dub fans to at bare minimum not do an English dub without the consideration of at least telling your English voice cast first before announcing it. You know, I get that happens. I get that you lose jobs all the time. I get that companies just decide, this is too much. We're just not going to do it this time around. I get it. It's happened so many times in the past. But at least be considerate to your cast, especially a cast that you've had for 8 years. And Aksys, I hope you come to your senses and dub this game. Then that way fucking scrub lords like myself can enjoy it in my shitty way, while the superior sub fans can enjoy it the way that they want to enjoy it. But no, that's my thing. You know, I'm not gonna support it, but it's not just because it's not gonna be in English. It's because of the way that they've treated the English cast at this point. Because then at this point I'm like, well, fuck you guys. I'm not even gonna waste my time giving you my money if this is how you're gonna treat your English cast. I don't know. I don't know. What else is there? If there's anything else, what else do you have to say?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, you know, truthfully, the reason I got into BlazBlue is because Patrick was Ragna. Like, yeah. I've been a fan of I would say Ragna. I've been a fan of Patrick for a while. Like, I didn't even know he was in BlazBlue until I stumbled upon a YouTube video one day where somebody had compiled a bunch of Patrick's roles, and Ragna was one of them. I don't remember what scene they used. It was like in I think one of the earlier games because I haven't played very many BlazBlue games. I've played a few. I think it was the first one or the second one.
Calamity Trigger.
Yeah, I think it was the very first one, and they did that, and then I found a video of Ragna. It's the ghost scene, that ghost scene where he's like, he does that.
Scene.
Yeah, he goes ghost and and I really like that because I mean, yeah, I like the other cast too, like the whole, the rest of the English cast. They're good in their own right. I mean, that's
Right.
why they do what they do. But yeah, I found Patrick as Ragna, and that's what got me into BlazBlue
Yeah.
is him in it as the main character, because usually most games like some games like I never know about unless it's a voice actor I really like. Like for example, you know how yesterday I was talking to you about Backstage Pass, that one game where like Ian's in there
Yeah.
and
Yes.
whatnot. Well, I had heard about that game for a while, but I had no interest in it because I was like, oh well, it's a typical visual novel dating sim. Like I like dating sims, like those are fine. But I don't know, it just I read the story and it seemed so typical, right?
Right.
And but then I was looking at it yesterday and I was looking at the voice cast and it was a bunch of people that I really liked. And so I was like, oh, okay, well the voice cast looks pretty good. Well, maybe I should check it out. So usually for me it's voice if a voice, actor is in this project, it makes me want to give it a chance because maybe it'll be good. Cuz I mean, I don't I don't hate sub voice actors. I don't hate the Japanese voice actors
No.
by any means. I mean, I have quite a few favorite voice actors that are Japanese that I really like.
Yeah.
And, it's just for me, it's just easier to I don't know, I get into a story more if it's dubbed. Like, okay, so I own Tales of Hearts R, which is that Tales game that Namco Bandai did not dub for whatever reason. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I still do not know to this day why they did not dubbed it. But it came out. I didn't buy it. I got it as a present because I was like, well, it's not dubbed. And I played some of it, but I'm reading the story, I'm seeing what these characters are doing, and it's just for me it's really hard to get into story sometimes of the games if it's not dubbed. Like I have a hard time getting into it because I don't understand what they're saying. Yeah, the subtitles are in English, I can read it, but a lot of times I have a hard time getting into the story because I'm just hearing them talking and I'm just thinking I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like I can read it. That's fine. I know what you're saying by reading it, but I don't understand how you feel at a certain point in the scene.
Yeah.
Text and pictures, they're fine, but so it's yeah, and I mean I've tried some games where with dual audio, the whole dual audio thing, like Eternal Sonata, that's another game Patrick's in. I tried it with dual audio. I switched it over and I did it for a battle and then afterwards I didn't like it because I couldn't I mean, yeah, I was used to the English voice cast, but I just couldn't feel it. Like I
No, I
couldn't
totally
get
get it. Yeah.
into the battle system. I was just like, oh, they're yelling and shouting words that I don't understand. I can't understand you. But in English, it makes it I guess what I'm trying to say is in English, it's easier for me to get into the story and relate to it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm part of the story because I know how they sound. I understand what they're saying. I know how a character feels, they act with a certain scene,
Yeah.
how they're supposed to feel. I probably already said that, but just basically it helps me get into the story easier because
It's your
I
way of being
understand
able
what
to
they're
enjoy the story.
yeah, because I understand what they're saying and I'm not going, oh well, I can't understand a word they're saying.
Well, continuing off of your part, like, it's thanks to BlazBlue I found out about Christina V and David Vincent.
Yeah.
My first role from Christina V was Noel Vermillion, and my first role from David Vincent was that when I knew he was David Vincent was
Jin.
Jin. Yeah.
Jin. Yeah.
And Jin is just so fucking funny. It's all Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
This is awesome. It's just I don't know. You said it better than I ever could. That's how I can get into the stories and whatnot. That's how I can enjoy That's how I can enjoy the stories, and I feel like not doing an English dub, it takes away my ability to enjoy the game the way I want it. I can fully get into it.
Yeah, because I mean, like with because you mentioned it, Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. Yeah, I was disappointed didn't get a dub, but I've gotten over that now. But it's just with RPGs, particular, especially because you're reading so much. Like it's like RPGs nowadays are really long. They
Yeah.
contain a lot of story, a lot of side quests, and a lot of times in RPGs there are things that happen to a character that they have to go through. They have to go through these struggles and whatnot. Well, I mean, I could buy Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem no problem, but I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much because they're speaking in Japanese and I don't understand them. Like I said before, I can read it and know what's going on, but I'm not gonna feel the same, like
You aren't
really
going to be as
into.
invested into it.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna be invested in the story. I'm just gonna constantly think, well, I can't understand them. They're screaming because this is happening, yeah, but I don't feel it.
No, I totally get it.
I don't feel I don't feel the experience they're going through. When I play RPGs, I like to feel what the character's going through. It's like, I immerse myself in there. I
Right.
feel like I'm part of the story too.
Right. But no, I totally get it. It's
Because I mean,
sad. It's sad that they want to disregard it
yeah,
so
because I
much.
mean, even one of my favorite things of BlazBlue when I owned a copy before I traded it in was the story. I would play it because I enjoyed the story because it was really funny, it was
It's
really
one of the
sad, it was really
it's one of the
exciting.
only times I've ever played a story in a fighting game and was just as invested as playing an RPG.
Exactly.
Because yeah, some of those stories are fucking chaotic and it's so awesome. Like the shit, like the Brothers Island
Oh,
from
the Island of
the
Brothers.
Island of
That's
Brothers.
still one
Yeah,
of my favorites.
it's to this day still one of the best fucking things I've seen in a game. And fucking David Vincent's performance as Jin on that island is fucking incredible. And then there's Patrick as Ragnar, like, you gotta be kidding me. Fucking incredible. And then anything related to Tal Kaka, like,
Oh
I
yeah.
fucking love Tal Kaka. She's incredible.
Oh yeah, Booby Lady and all that
Fucking
stuff.
movie lady, the fucking goddamn tapioca queen.
Oh yeah.
But it's like I was able to really enjoy it because it was in English.
Hmm.
If it was in Japanese, you would get a hearty chuckle from me. But in Japanese, but in English, I'm like, I can't breathe. I'm like, are you fucking? Is this really happening right now?
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, like originally I was gonna buy the game because I thought it was gonna be dubbed. And I was really excited. I was gonna save up and get the collectors because it has that little, Noel and Android Petite thing,
Yeah, I
and
remember
I
you
was
saying that. You were
excited.
all
Yeah,
excited.
I was
Yeah,
all excited because I was gonna support it, because I couldn't support the other one that had a Rachel one back then,
right.
like because I
Chrono
didn't have money.
Phantasma.
Yeah, yeah, that one, Chrono Fantasma. I wanted that, but they didn't have it. And and I was about ready to buy it, but then they said, "Oh, it's not going to be dubbed." And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to throw away. I think it's like $90. I didn't want to throw away $90.
Yeah.
Like, okay, there are a few games besides like the Tales game that I own. Like, for example, I own Umineko on PS3. That's not dubbed. That's never going to be dubbed. It's in Japanese. The subtitles in Japanese. But in the case of that is because it's not voiced, it's a visual novel and I've read the translations, so I understand what's going on, so I didn't mind buying that. but
Yeah.
but BlazBlue has been dubbed for so long that if I bought a $90 game that's not dubbed, it would I feel like I wouldn't get my money's worth. I feel like
I
I
get
would
it.
just
Yeah.
I wasted $90.
Uh huh. And then you
So
have people like me that won't even support it at this point because I've said it multiple times that it's one thing to make the decision, hey, look, we're not going to be dubbing it, but it's another thing to not tell your voice actors and just say after the fact, oh yeah, by the way.
yeah,
So, wow, okay, as of recording this, there's 100 more signatures on the petition.
that's good.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a mess. This is a fucking mess, and I'm surprised that I'm surprised. I'm just as surprised as Patrick Seitz is that this has gotten the attention that it has. I
Yeah.
just figured it would be a one-off thing of somebody being upset that a company fucked them over, and it would be left at that, and Aksys was just going to stick to its guns, which is the original content. The original episode was going to be, why that was going to be like how Aksys fucked over the English cast. But now with this development, I mean, I'm gonna be realistic here. I'm not holding my breath. I still don't think the game's ever gonna be dubbed. Sadly, I think they've already made the announcement, and I think they've already made enough of a commitment that they're now starting to backpedal. And at best case scenario, we're gonna get a $30 DLC for English.
Yeah,
which I won't be happy about, because that means I'll have to spend $90 to enjoy the game the way that I want to enjoy it. But at the same time, that's better than nothing.
yeah, that's true. And I mean, like with this whole thing, I honestly didn't think, like you, I didn't think it was going to get that much attention because most of the time, certain things, like a lot of people, when they say they're not dubbing, most people don't care. Like,
that's what I thought the reaction was going to be. I thought it was going to be a majority of people saying, fuck it, who needs the English anyway? Fuck the English, we don't care. I'm surprised there are this many people upset that there's going to be no English version.
Like, because I know, I can't remember there's certain games, I can't think off the top of my head, but I know there's certain games that, they said they wouldn't dub, and people just are like, okay, well, whatever, And I mean, I personally don't buy it because that's just me.
Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. They said, hey, this is only going to be Japanese. People are like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And it's like,
well, I mean, even then, like, to be honest, like, I guess in Japan, even it didn't do well. Like, it sold really bad. So even now, like, a lot of people buying it now. There's quite a few people that said they didn't really like it either. I mean, I have seen some people that said they enjoyed it, but I think the majority is that not a lot of people liked it. I think it didn't do. I think it flopped here and in Japan, which is a shame because I know they had a lot of good ideas, but...
Well, I was concerned when they released the trailer, and I was like, oh, dude, it's Persona.
Yeah.
It's Persona Fire Emblem Edition.
Yeah, they pretty much, like, from the first trailer they had with just characters, and it kept going, it changed a lot. Like, so I don't feel
it basically sounds like a No Man's Sky conversation that we could have.
Yeah. But yeah, like, it's nice to see that a lot of people are, like, trying to do something, because sometimes that does work. Like, I'm not saying this isn't working, but I know, like, some places, if you get a lot of people and you really make an effort, usually stuff changes. So, who knows, maybe with enough effort, Aksys will be like, oh, okay, well, we made a mistake, and, so, at least, the good thing is, because I was on their Twitter, they are seeing that a lot of people are trying to do something, because there were a bunch of people tweeting to them basically saying, like, well, why aren't you dubbing it, and then so Aksys is like, well, so they're acknowledging that people are trying to do something for it.
Right.
It could be worse. They could totally be like, well, people are trying to do something, but whatever, we don't care.
They could totally do an EA move where they just don't even pay attention to what the fans are saying.
Exactly. So at least they're at least made an effort to look at what's going on.
I just hope it doesn't turn into a whole Destiny thing where Bungie pretends to listen to the fans, but they don't.
Yeah. No, I get you.
Again, another conversation for another day.
Yeah.
No. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I think that's probably. I'm gonna end it with this. The English cast is very important to people like us because we found out about new voice actors. We supported, it's because of the work that Christina V did that I paid attention to her roles she did after BlazBlue, after she started doing BlazBlue, and I fell in love with her work, and I followed a bunch of her work, and I also, to the point of, she's in one episode of One Punch Man, and I was fucking excited. I'm so happy. This is awesome. David Vincent, that was my introduction to David Vincent, and I've watched and supported a bunch of the shows and games he's been a part of because he's a fantastic voice actor, and I found out about him because of the dub of BlazBlue. There's just I just hope that Aksys comes to their senses, and I hope that 6 months from now we're recording an addendum to this that's, hey, Central Fiction's getting dubbed and we're eating our words. I hope that becomes the case, because I want to eat my words, because I don't think they're ever going to dub it. And if they decide to dub it, I'm going to buy the game. I will buy the fucking game. But when you, and I've said this many times throughout this whole episode, but when you don't dub something and you just treat your dub cast kind of like an afterthought when making that big of a decision, if it was that tough of a decision, why weren't you talking to the voice cast? It's like, that's my big problem about it. You know, it's not a, you know, Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem problem where, oh, the game's not getting dubbed. Man, that sucks. And then I moved about my day. This is one of those things where it's like, wow, Aksys really fucked up. You know, they really fucked up in the way that they handled announcing this. It's all, you're allowed to do whatever you want to do, but just please be considerate for us few that enjoy the English version, you know. And also be courteous to people who work on these dubs, because we also got to remember, these aren't just the voice actors that are losing jobs. That's sound engineers that aren't going to be able to work on a project. Those are producers, line editors, script writers. It's one less problem a localization team doesn't get to work on. It's god damn, it just sucks, because it's like there's a lot of people that are now kind of don't have a job now. You know, it's not just the voice actors, it's the producers, it's the sound engineers, it's the editors, it's the directors, the script writers, the whole team focusing on promoting the localization of the game and casting new characters, because it looks like there are going to be new characters in this game. So they'll, you know, the casting directors who cast the new characters and stuff like that. So I don't know. It sucks. It really does. But I mean, I can try to be hopeful in that I hope Aksys supports the English cast and does one last final hurrah. But I will be very disappointed and will not support the game if they don't dub it. But that's just me. That is just me. I don't know if you have any closing thoughts before we wrap up this episode, or if you got everything out.
Nope, that's it.
Good? Alrighty, well, thank you guys so much for listening to this, what I'm calling very controversial episode of Animu Wut Do. God, it's hard to talk about these without throwing shade at somebody. You know, this is kind of, you know, it's real talk. It's absolutely real talk about this BlazBlue controversy, you know, because we're all opinionated and fans are allowed to be upset, you know, and this is not for bad reason, because you're taking away an aspect and a method that people can enjoy a game. So that's just us. So thank you so much for listening to another edition of Animu Wut Do. We'll be back next time with a way more lighthearted episode. Mira has been working on an episode that she's kind of cooking up an idea for, and it's actually a really funny idea. And it's way different than this. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. Let us know in the comments down below what you think. In the description of this video is going to be the change.org petition, and then the links to the posts made by Patrick Seitz that we referenced throughout this, and all that crazy stuff. So thank you guys so much. You guys take care. We'll catch you guys next time for another episode of Animu Wut Do. And yeah, y'all take care now.